Somewhere Better by I_am_Ellie on AO3. Episode 63, Chapter 14, I Know. Now that he thought about it, he was fairly sure none of his teachers had even known his name. As Hizashi drove towards UA, they had already dropped Izuku off at school. He couldn't help but feel like jumping out of the car and running. It felt eerily similar to the feeling he got when he was younger, when his mother would take off to drive him to the doctor's for his vaccinations or a sports physical, a requirement for UA's hero course. Twisting fear in his gut, he crossed his arms, tapping his fingers nervously. "Babe, it'll be fine," Hizashi insisted, pulling into the parking lot. "Trust me, I got evaluated last year and it was all smooth sailing. You don't have to worry about anything." He turned off the car, unbuckled his seatbelt, before looking at Shouta experimentally. Shouta made no move to get out. "Sweetheart, come on." Hizashi tried again, sounding a bit amused now. "It'll take 30 minutes to an hour max. It'll be fine. Let's go." Shouta sighed, unbuckled his seatbelt, froze for a moment, before finally opening his own car door and climbing out. Hizashi followed him after a moment later. There were only a handful of kids at UA at this time, mainly the studious students who liked to go over their homework before class, a couple kids who arrived too early, waiting for the morning bell to start. They turned down the hallway and there was a group of children crowding around students against their locker. There was shouting and punching, and another boy on the side of the hallway was kicking the papers that had been spilled out of an open backpack. Shouta tried to feel guilty that he was a bit grateful for the fight, because this he could deal with. "Hey!" he shouted, and the group of boys that had been crowding another student against the locker backed away as if they had been burned. The boy who had been kicking the backpack looked ready to run. "Don't even think about it." Shouta snapped at who he was mentally dubbing Backpack Boy. Shouta glanced at the child who had been pushed against the lockers, a bleeding lip, red marks that would surely bruise, spotting on his face, an already blackened eye. The boy was rubbing at his throat, like he had been choked, and, "Of course. Are you all right, Sokonao?" Shouta asked, and Shin nodded, before spitting out a mouthful of blood, right onto one of the boy's shoes. The boy lunged towards Shin, arms bulging with muscles that hadn't been there before. Probably a strength quirk. Shouta cancelled out the strength kid's quirk. "Stop!" he said again, forcefully. He didn't have his capture weapon. He had no way of restraining any of them if things got ugly, but he glanced the kids over, making sure there wasn't any major injuries, before he sent them to Nezu's office. 2 he recognized as business students. 1, Gen Ed kid, and... "Oh, you've got to be kidding me," Shouta said, glaring at Backpack Boy. "Are you serious right now?" Someone from his class. Oh, he and Nezu would be having words about this boy. "Sokonao, recover his girl's office now," he said to the bleeding boy. Shin straightened up, opening his mouth to protest. Hizashi, who Shouta had honestly forgotten was there, interrupted him. "You need the nurse, listener. Don't argue with him." There was a hint of warning in his voice. Shin glared at the boys for a moment, before nodding, jogging down the hallway towards the nurse's office. Shouta turned back towards the boys, anger resigning itself. You, and you," he said, pointing at the 2 business students and the Gen Ed boy. "You're going to Nezu's office. Mike will walk you there. You will not say a word. You will listen to everything he says, and you will accept whatever punishment Nezu gives you." He turns to Backpack Boy. "Nabara," his mind supplied. "And you," Shouta stated, "will be coming with me." Nabara smiled, suddenly looking a bit nervous. Good. As he walked the boy towards his and Grant Torino's classroom, he tried to remember everything he could about this student. Fair grades, though they weren't particular. He knew that Torino helped him with his homework during lunch, and a decent quirk. He'd be a good hero one day, if he would start focusing more on his students. But this... Shota's blood was boiling. Shouta knew that Shin got teased in class. He and Tornado had both given everyone a talk before. And other than that, there wasn't much else they could do. He knew that they called him Death Boy because of his quirk. And he known that someone was hitting Shin Sokoru. The kid came to school with new bruises every other day, for goodness sake. But he had never seen any violence towards his students himself, and Shin hadn't told them anything, so he'd be useless against that as well. But now, he opened the classroom door for the boy, and Nabara walked inside, looking a bit sullen. Grant Torino was writing something on the chalkboard, and the rest of the classroom was empty. Shouta pointed at an empty desk. Nabara sat down. "Explain yourself," he stated evenly. Nabara blinked up at him. "Do I need to phase it differently?" Shouta asked, standing stiff. "What the hell possessed you to attack another student?" he demanded, hands raving without his own volition. "He started it!" Nabara exclaimed. "He's been nothing but pissy with us since school started, even though he's got no right to. My buddy in business was supposed to be in class 1A, not that freak." Shota's eyes twitched. "And why did you attack him today?" Shouta asked, taking a deep breath. Calm down. All he had to do was calm down. He gritted his teeth. He just... Nabara froze, his mouth shut. "No reason? No reason at all?" Shouta asked, because if they had beaten a boy that was smaller than them, bloody, for nothing? "He said something stupid," Nabara said, scrolling down at his desk. "It pissed us off." Shouta took another deep breath. He could feel Grunterino's eyes on his back. "Here," Shouta began, "is what's going to happen." The boy glanced up at him, fear and something akin to hope on his face. "Bullying of any kind, provoked or unprovoked, is absolutely unacceptable. If you need to sort out anything through fights or anything like that, you do it while you're on a sparring mat. Violence in the hallway is prohibited for a reason." "Yes, sir," Nabara said. "I'm not done," Shouta snapped, and the boy froze. "Did you hit that boy?" He'd only been kicking the backpack when Shouta had arrived, but he needed to know this boy's part in everything, in its entirety. Nabara nodded. "All right," Shouta said. "I'm going to Nezu, and I'm going to request your immediate expulsion," Shouta stated with finality. Nabara's jaw dropped. "And if he doesn't expel you, you're going to be doing suicide sprints every day in the gym until you graduate." The boy paled considerably. He glanced at the clock. His appointment was in 15 minutes. "Could you walk him to Nezu's office?" Shouta asked, and Torino nodded. He walked out of the classroom, adrenaline and fury leaving him in a rush. His hands were shaking. His eyes were starting to ache from his quirk. Halfway to Hound Dog's, a set of feet marched up with his own pace. "Hey, Teach," Shin said. His split lip was noticeably absent, and the forming bruises had disappeared entirely, though eye bags had appeared to replace them. Recovery Girl was a miracle worker. "Hello," he said. Nezu had said Hound Dog's office was around here. "Look," Shin said, "I appreciate what you did back there, really, but I had it handled." Shouta felt a spark of amusement through all the nervousness. "Okay," he said, turning down a hallway. "Here? No, Art Ring. Damn it all. And I didn't need you to pick up for me, or anything like that." Shin continued. "I was just fine on my own." "Somehow, I doubt that," Shouta murmured. "Upstairs, maybe. But wasn't that the floor for business classes? Near Nezu's office, maybe?" "Look!" the boy snapped. "You don't know shit about this, so just stay out of—" "Trust me," Shouta said, turning around entirely and staring back down the hallway. Surely, it would be near Nezu's office. I know more than you think. I know more than you think about your situation. She scoffed. Sure you do, he said bitterly. Shouta felt a certain compulsion to roll his eyes at the boy. He refrained. He ran his hands through his hair in frustration. Where was this office? What do you think you know? She asked, suddenly, sounding a bit nervous now. I know they beat you up every day. That, or someone else does. Shouta stated evenly. How did this place not have a map? I know you didn't tell the teachers anything because you think you're tough shit. I know they make fun of you every day for your quirk, for your clothes, your hair, your face, the way you talk. And I know that they aren't stopping, no matter what we say about it. She was staring at him, eyes a bit wide. Who the fuck told you? No one told me anything, Shouta said. There, right at the end of the hall. So close, yet so far. I'm just not an idiot. Shouta stopped walking. She stared up at him, working his jaw. He was a very short boy, much shorter than Shouta, and couldn't have been taller than 5'4". You want to say something to me, you fucking... Look, child, Shouta said, crossing his arms across his chest tightly. His hands were holding onto his elbows tightly. He could feel his fingers digging into his skin. I know you think you're tough, and you probably are, but if you don't tell someone soon about this, you're basically letting them walk all over you, and that's not gonna cut it in the real world. Trust me. The fuck do you know? Shin demanded, crossing his own arms and mirroring his stance. I don't need no... When I was in middle school, I got beat up every day, Shouta said. His arms were starting to ache. When I came to UA and I replaced the kid after the sports festival, I basically painted a target on my back. They made fun of me for every little thing they could think of. They pushed me around and called me a freak. And they did their best to stress me out because they know I don't react well under pressure. My friends helped me out, and I never told Nezu. And the kids that picked on me in that class, they're heroes too now. And some of them still treat me like shit to this day. He uncrossed his arms and shoved them into his pockets. Shrugged. Those other boys that messed with you in class, and yes, I do know about them. They might mature, they might grow, they might even apologize, but they are never going to stop if you don't do something about it. He stared at a point over his shoulders for a moment, met his eyes. What am I supposed to do? He finally asked, voice sounding a bit hoarse. Shouta almost did roll his eyes then, because hadn't they just gone over this? Tell Nezu, Shouta said. Or tell me. Give me a list of names, and I'll make sure they never bother you again. He glanced at his watch again. He was almost late. 2 more minutes. He had time. You don't have to do anything now. Just a suggestion. Think about it. The bell rang, then, and the kids seemed to pile into the hallway all at once. Go to class. Shin didn't move for a moment before nodding, jogging away. Shouta took a deep breath, sighed heavily, ran a hand through his hair, checked his watch. 1 more minute. Shouta walked into Hound Dog's office. Oh. We don't get it. Okay. Chapter 15 is called Learn to Breathe. I'm sorry. How do they end up there? Okay. I'm breathing. I could breathe. I'm breathing. What the fuck? I'm breathing. I'm breathing in and out. In and out. I'm sorry. What the fuck is all I have to say. What the fuck? That's all I have to say. Just what the absolute motherfucking fuck of the fuckity fucks fuck. Fuck. Okay. No notes. This is a very no notes. Nope. None. As always, my raindrops, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds. Have a wonderful day or night. Link to my Discord server and socials are down in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content, and thank you so much for watching.